involved in the blockchain space since about 2013, more on the Ethereum side of things before Bitcoin, and now we slowly also always seeing what are new and exciting technologies and what's coming out there before Bitcoin, and now we slowly also always seeing what are new and exciting technologies and what's coming out there before
Is there
Bitcoin,
lag?
and now we slowly also always seeing what are new and exciting technologies and what's coming out there before.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
you know, the reason for this feedback loop is that we are streaming this live on YouTube.
Okay.
And I just had the window open, and while we are welcoming everyone here at our community call, I just need to make sure that everyone gets speaker rights. So I'm just taking care of that. So hopefully, yeah, if I'm not quick enough, please let me know.
Okay.
Just see. Okay, but by now everyone should be ready to contribute. Okay. Andreas.
Yeah, I just want to thank Sean for the quick intro. It sounds really valuable, especially to me at the moment, because I'm right now trying to understand the RChain blockchain, a little bit of rolling, and also how that plays a role for the validator sale. So maybe in another call we can chat, and maybe you can help a little bit more on the technical side, because I'm not a programmer. I'm supporting business development and also project management. But I still would like to create some pictures that help me understand it and also make me able to explain it to other people.
Sure.
Cool.
Great. So for today, I was thinking, let's just hear who is here for the first time. So sort of, I think we do have some people that that haven't been here before, like Roland and also Sean. Others might show up. Also, I just wanted to give you an overview of where we currently stand, because I think everyone in this call is more or less familiar with what we are currently doing. So we can directly jump into what has happened since last week. What are the news? What is it that we would like to share? So myself and Andreas, but also Steve, the chairperson of RChain Europe, who is talking to us from the UK, will present the current status quo of the projects we are working on. And then also, hopefully, Tim and I can talk a little bit about the upcoming community meetup and hackathon that we are planning here in Berlin. We'll talk about that later as well. Also, other conferences where we will go here in Europe. And I wanted to quickly talk about social media channels that we are currently bringing to life, and I would like to figure out whether there is any more need of other channels that we are not really aware of at this moment. So that's basically it. And then we are here for answering your questions. So first of all, I would say, as you know, there are two, or maybe there is one major field we are currently trying to tackle beyond all the organizational things. And this is research within the co-op and also among partners on governance. So there are two trajectories we are working on in parallel. One is mapping the ecosystem, and that's basically what Andreas is very busy with. And the other one is a collection of user stories and trying to really get closer to what is actually needed in terms of distributed governance tools, just to get a better understanding of what is out there and with whom we might partner up. And there Steve can give a little bit of an overview. So maybe Andreas, you want to start and just let us know what's going on, and then we can move on to Steve.
Yeah, so since Ella mentioned, and probably most of you know, we have the decentralized governance focus in RChain Europe. And to me, that's a pretty new field. So I was first of all wondering, what does it actually mean? And in the meanwhile, I have this understanding that it's basically a new way of governing organizations, ranging from companies to parties to well, any type of groups you can imagine, who don't want to rely on those classical top-down hierarchies, rather working bottom-up, and then need support to have every voice heard, but also count and considered, and somehow yeah, integrate those views into the decision-making process. And yeah, therefore I was mapping the ecosystem and found like 40 different projects which are developing tools in the different fields, from decision-making, voting, co-budgeting. There's also some visualizations of the different relations between people. There's stuff on ID happening. So there's a pretty big range already covered by those tools, which can be off-chain, meaning like it's providers who don't rely on the blockchain yet. It's about 40 tools I found, and another approximately 20 which are already related to a blockchain. I also found that RChain has already 4 projects working, I don't really know, in the testnet, I guess, or at least are funded from the venture funds behind RChain. So that was a pretty interesting insight. And the next step is talking to most of them to see how their tools are working, and whether we yeah, can help them to create or to improve their tools and making them part of the RChain ecosystem. So therefore, in the back of our heads, I think we all have the idea of creating an incubator sooner or later. But this is just like the basic work, what I started now. And one of the first outcomes of this is visualization, what I would like to create in the next weeks, I would say, where at the moment, looking from the RChain perspective, I would like to visualize kind of like a matrix where on the x-axis there is the different fields ranging from decision-making, co-budgeting, ID, and all those fields. And on the y-axis, there could be the project stage, because I'm pretty much interested in if it's only an idea yet, if they have an MVP, or if they are already in the stage of selling a service, because this could show all of us in one view, yeah, at which level these projects are, and whether it makes sense to integrate in the RChain ecosystem. That was my first idea. And maybe you guys also have some ideas or some requests, what you would be interested in that mapping or visualization. What would you like to have in a comprehended graph? What would you like to see, like in a very short time?
I have just one small kind of dream, which is more because we are quite a small group right now in the European cooperative. I see a little bit kind of the potential that you can link an Ethereum address or a Bitcoin address already, which will be fully compatible with RChain. And so when you apply for becoming a member, then you can give out this address. And then later on, it serves you as an easy access to a decentralized governance platform, whatever we came up to. So I just see this opportunity right now to do it from the beginning. And therefore, I want to propose this as a discussion topic here.
Okay, I wonder if that is maybe also something where Steve would like to pick up when we talk about about the other aspects of governance in forms of user stories and you know where we stand here maybe we can create that.
So I put in the chat, hopefully a link that works for everybody, to a document that we're all working on. There's a call that I've been convening that's on a Tuesday at 7 o'clock UK time, and we're gonna refactor when that call is, because it's a bit too late for some people. So we're gonna do it probably still on a Tuesday, and largely the artifact that's been generated from those calls is the artifact that I've shared. And really what it is it's a spreadsheet with a front page. So you can go to the front page, and the front page has some definitions and some context. So what do we mean by identity? What do we mean by governance? And we've been just collecting thoughts about what we mean by these things on the one side, and that was kind of kicking it off. And then very kindly, Tim donated a page on solutions, which Andreas has now further decorated with additional solutions, both in the identity space and the governance space, including splitting out those systems that really are more about voting than they are about the wider notion of governance. So there's links for some of these, and we're going through them to get ideas, in part the ideas that Andreas explained about how do we visualize a debate. Because if we're having a discussion remotely over a period of time, and you come and go from the discussion, you have a point of view that you want to put across. It may not be one that everyone shares, but the best way of putting a point of view across is to understand how everyone else is thinking. So this is where we come up with the phrase, the shape of the debate. So if you know that there are wildly opposing views, or you can find a middle ground, then you can reach a better form of consensus. In W3C, which I used to chair a lot of groups in W3C, consensus was the way in which we decided everything. But that was largely based on me being pig-headed and just carrying on the debate until we reached a consensus. And not allowing people to vote. It was my right as chair to bring things to a vote. I never did in all the years I was there. I just outweighted everybody. And that's not necessarily a good thing in a distributed debate. It might work in a smaller context, but it doesn't work in a larger context. So there's a need for people to be able to pick up and engage in the right way. And some of these governance systems and the like have mechanisms for doing that, and some don't. So we wanted to understand how that works, because this whole issue of decentralization and governance through technology, or governance support, shall we say, for decentralization using technology, as I spoke to Tim about it, this is a whole new area, not just for us, but for the world in general. So we're kind of running blind a bit. So we're having to guess some things, and we're having to inform ourselves a lot about and think about what it might mean in the wider context. So with that in mind, that's kind of why we're looking at solutions. So if you guys have any solutions that you've come across, feel free to add them to the sheet. Feel free to add them. We very much like input.
And maybe Steve, I was thinking if there is anyone in this conversation that feels like he or she would like to be part of our next conversation.
I was going to say the same. So if any of you, if any of you want to sort of participate in the kind of smaller workshop that we run once a week, and we'll do another one for identity. I've got to kick that off next. Just let me know. Just send me an email. I'll make sure I add you to the list, and you can come along to that. And we do that, in a very transparent way. So in terms of where we are, there's two other tabs. One says, well, there's three other tabs. There's a mapping, which we'll do at some point, of products against stories. And then there's also, which we may or may not finish, we may not need to. There's also stories relating specifically to the expression of wish. Some of it overlaps into identity. We haven't done the identity stories yet. That's to come. But these user stories, so those of you that aren't on it, I can read one of them out. So as a member, I want to register to participate in debates and to vote on the outcome. That's a user story. And the idea behind the user stories was just to get everyone's point of view as to what role they might be thinking about, what they have to be able to do in that role from a governance perspective, and possibly have a justification. So you might say, as a member, I want to register to participate in debate and vote on the outcome because, and then you put the because in. And we're just gathering these. So where we are today is there's a whole bunch of stories here, 36 of them at the moment. And I'm going to put an additional sheet or something at the bottom to give a way for us to understand how to rank these. Because the next stage is what we've got to do is we can't boil the ocean. So we've got to figure out where is the minimum viable product that we need for our RChain community globally, not just for Europe, but globally. And there may be some other players or other people in other organizations that would want the same thing. But we've got to really focus on enabling ourselves to have these sorts of discussions and to include as wide a group of people from the RChain ecosystem and the co-ops as possible. So the next stage is really just to rank these and say, well, by the end of October next year, or it's really before the end of October, for the sort of bigger meeting, we want to have these user stories encoded in a platform that we can interact with to facilitate debates, to facilitate that governance that is as much as possible on chain. That's the aim. Now, it may be that we don't get everything on chain. That may well be the case. It may be that instead of trying to build this from scratch, we'll scratch our heads and say, oh, it'd be much better if we got these 3 products that are listed in the solutions and got them to actually port what they do so that they use as much computation on chain as possible. Possibly use it, leaving their UIs so that they can then say, oh, Lumio powered by RChain, right? That sort of thing. And we can use it. So that's kind of the idea. We're not at the point to make that decision yet as to how best to build this thing and to get it delivered. So where we are is we're still at this stage of gathering requirements as user stories. And next week, I will deliver during the course between now and next Tuesday how I would do the ranking. And we can have an online discussion about that to anyone that wants to send me an email that isn't already on that list. I'm happy to share that with you. And then next meeting, hopefully, we will be in a position to actually then rank these user stories and draw a line as to where the MVP lies.
Okay.
So that's it. Full stop.
Okay. Yeah, I realize there's a lot to that topic, and we've been trying to wrap our heads around how to approach that. And I'm glad that we have found these 2 trajectories that at least bring us in a certain direction and that help us working towards a real outcome. I just wanted to make an announcement, and I would like to ask Tim to join me for that, because some of you know we have planned to organize an RChain Europe meetup and hackathon, combined event, if you wish, from Friday, November 23rd through Sunday, November 25th here in Berlin. And that is, it's a great opportunity to bring the community together, to tell people that we are here and ready to go. And maybe Tim, you want to share some ideas and approaches towards the hackathon. What would you like to present there?
Sure. So as we start on Friday with the shared meetup, Saturday will be with a rolling, starting off with a rolling session, so that we get people which might not have had the chance to play around with rolling up to speed. And after that, we will start, say, a hackathon until Sunday to think about what are like the basic smart contracts which are important, which might be used by many projects. So what is the basic infrastructure, as we have, for example, the ERC20 smart contracts in Ethereum, which are used by everybody. we are currently focusing in the community also on exploring wallet concepts and token concepts for smart contracts. And we definitely want to focus on tools or smart contracts which can be used reused in other projects. There might be the chance to win even a prize in Rock for the winners. This is still to be publicly announced, but as this is public, there's a likelihood that it will happen. And we will also have the chance for the people which are not engaging in coding at that time to participate in the engineering side, or even start to engage with the broader RChain community, as Ela and other people will be around, so that we have the time to network there. Yeah, that's it for the hackathon, I would say. There is a meetup already created. I will post a link in the chat as well, so that you have the chance to register for the meetup on Friday. There's still a meetup upcoming for the hackathon. This will be created today, and we will share the links as well. So I put this in the channel really quick.
It's also on the RChain Europe website, and you just can stay tuned for more details on the program. I would also like to propose during the hackathon, I think we could as well gather with interested people to really talk about the membership program, and to what extent you as members would like to see the membership program developing. What is it that you really would consider as valuable incentives? And this is something I think we can really take the time throughout Saturday and Sunday to go into detail with that. So everyone who can make it, who happens to be in Europe or who can come over to Berlin, is super welcome. And for the public talks we're going to have on Friday the 23rd, of course, we are looking for inspiring speakers from within our community. So this is also a call for everyone that feels like they have something important or interesting to share. Then just reach out to me or Tim, and let's see what we can cook up for this opening night. Our intention is to also invite members of the press, invite friends from the Berlin tech or from tech communities and the blockchain community, to just have a chance to hang out with them and just become a little bit more visible than we are to date. That's basically it.
Wonderful. Ela, do you mind if I share the upcoming conferences which are also important for the general blockchain space where we will be? Absolutely. And I think you have some to announce.
That's just what I wanted to go next. Please go ahead.
Cool. So from the blockchain tech perspective, there's the Web3 Summit upcoming in Berlin. Let me check the dates. This will be the 22nd and the 23rd of October, where definitely some people from the RChain community, as myself and others from the Blocky team, will be as well. Then 1 week later, there is the very important, very visible blockchain conference in Prague, who will start off with the Ethereum Magicians, and then with the Status Hackathon on the side. So these are the two very big events in the blockchain space upcoming. So Web3 Summit, Ethereum Magicians, and DevCon 4. Ela, what are the other upcoming events you're engaging?
Yeah, Stephen and I, we have been working on a very nice proposal for Slovenia next week. And maybe, Stephen, you just want to summarize what you just submitted and what exactly that is.
Sure, I can do that. So Slovenia has an upcoming event that is part of Feel the Future, I think it's called. And they're doing a blockchain and sustainability development goals conference talking about how blockchain technology can help reach the sustainability development goals. And RChain itself as a platform is a direct attempt to make blockchain quicker, faster, and significantly, in the case of sustainability development goals, it'll use less electricity, being proof of stake rather than proof of work. But one of the things that we here at RChain do that is such a significantly different thing is we also facilitate and incentivize and encourage the development of dApps on our network. So anyone can make a dApp, given that it will be a public network, but we like to look for dApps that fit the RChain ethos. And a lot of those very much are in vein with sustainability development goals or directly address either directly address sustainable development goals or indirectly so. So we put in an application to present ourselves as RChain and some of our projects funded by either Pythia or by Reflective or anyone related to the RChain ecosystem that we can. So we talked about like Life ID, Switch. We put a big list out. We're looking forward to it. I think that will be received pretty well, but definitively we will be in Slovenia and hopefully we'll speak. So we'll know by next week, I think.
Yeah, we should know pretty soon because we have applied for this, as Steven said, for a section where special projects will be featured, and we think that RChain has to be there. And let's just see. But it seems that at least one of us will be in Slovenia either way, because I think it's super interesting to see who will be there. And Peter,
the 19th
is next week Friday. It's the 19th of October. It's one day.
I will get the actual paperwork and put a link to it in the chat.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of stuff coming up, and I'm really glad that we have all these conferences covered. So it's also fantastic that Tim will be at DEF CON and Web3 and all of that is covered. So that means all the major conferences, one of us will be there and make sure to share what we have to share here. As a next thing, I just wanted to talk to you about our social media channels and also a little bit about the website. So we've done some updates this week. We've also tried to explain a little bit better this whole membership process and what it takes to become a member. We've also tried to answer some of the questions that people often have, whether or not it's possible to have some sort of dual membership with in both the RChain co-op in the US, but also in Europe, or possibly in Asia, that's also emerging, or any other co-op that come up in the RChain ecosystem. So we just tried to answer some of these questions and facilitate this membership onboarding a little bit better. I mean, it's still a work in process. And while we have been working on that, we have been asking ourselves, what are actually the social media channels that really make sense to us? So at this moment, we actively use Twitter. So that's a shared account for us, and also Tim. He's the one who created it. So we are using it collectively. We use it for announcements or interesting stuff that we want to share. And it seems there is a constant growth, also slow but constant. So that seems to work out nice. Also, Twitter is some sort of native environment, I would say, for myself. I use it a lot, so that comes in quite natural. Steven set up an RChain Europe Discord channel, so that is also slowly getting into life. Steven, I liked your idea of opening a membership channel where we really help people with onboarding to the European co-op. I think that's a good step, because that offers people just a very quick possibility of asking about any questions that come up during signing up as a member. So this is certainly something we can pursue. And then there's the YouTube channel where we share the videos and stuff that we are working on. And that's basically it. So I'm especially interested. I know there are people here in this call that have been debating lately about social media that works really well for the US co-op, and others where it might make sense to maybe shift to either other platforms or to entirely let go of specific stuff. So I was just wondering if there's anyone who would like to give input on that. Any advice or, experience, feedback, whatever.
I'd just like to say that Twitter is really heavy on blockchain. And so, hashtagging with those topics will definitely attract attention for sure. And I think it's also for the co-op movement as well. I've gotten a lot of traction off of Twitter from people in the co-op world that have followed us as a result. So I think that combination is definitely a good one.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. This is also what I have experienced on other channels too. You know, for me, it's really the question about the format and what really makes sense. For me, Twitter is more of a journalistic format, and it's good for announcements because it's related to hashtags, and you easily get into all sorts of groups. But for me, it's the big question about the Discord channel. And Andreas, I know there has been debate going on whether using the Discord channel or maybe even migrating to Discourse, right? You want to just add something to that?
So just basically, I had to talk with Patrick, who's responsible of the RChain US marketing. And he gave me and also Rashid, who's our communication and maybe more or less also marketing expert. He gave us an insight into what channels RChain US uses. And also, like, one of his big learnings was we should not, for the sake of the US having so many channels, engage in the same ones, but we should really feel free to develop our own strategy and also limit the amounts of channels, because at the end it's a lot of work, and we not really need all of them. So that's why we are wondering now which channels we should roll out. You asked for Discourse. We figured out maybe a Discourse. It's basically like a forum, but it can also locked channels or hidden channels.
Like that Discourse.org?
I'm not sure about the domain, but the name Discourse is right. Yeah. It basically offers the same features as Discord, but has this public view where you don't need to be a member to see what was going on, and that might be a neat feature, because we could engage people on our website even though they are not members, and for the members we could still have different channels. Within the call with Patrick, we also learned that there's some hidden channels in Discord for only members, so that differentiation would be possible with Discourse, and we might switch, but haven't looked in detail in what this tool is providing. It's kind of an ongoing decision. But yeah, I don't know if you have feedback on Discourse or your preferred external communication channels, then we're glad to hear it.
Andreas, this is Ian. I'd be glad to speak with you more about the differences between Discord and Discourse. The co-op in the past has used both. The biggest difference being Discourse is self-hosted, and you may have better privacy and security protections. But Discord has a much larger user base. And also it does have better controls for assigning different roles to different users and having different visibility access to different channels. So it's really a trade-off, but I'd be happy to discuss more with you if you like.
Yeah, we could, well, let's say we have a look into the tool, and then we also have an idea how it works, and then we can definitely talk about it.
Yeah, and also we are interested in aligning that with the US co-op, right? To just learn from your experience, because right now we try to figure out, you know, I don't think we have the manpower right now to operate like 8 or 9 social media channels. I mean, to really create value in these channels. But what we can certainly do is to come up with formats that make sense and to test those and see what we are really going to do.
Well, they will reproduce like bunnies. So there's not a whole lot you can do to keep people from setting up their own channels and propagating them.
Yeah, this is already happening.
Yeah, but perhaps using your domain name, the rchaineu.coop, use that to show people what is most official, and maybe you can publish a list of the official channels, the ones that you have moderators assigned for and that are more the the legitimate voice of the EU co-op.
Right. Yeah. So did you experience that? People coming up with all sorts of channels that haven't been official? Okay.
Yes, many.
Yeah, I just noticed that happened on Twitter, right? With different Twitter handles and stuff, where it wasn't clear who was in control of them. Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good to know. Thanks, Ian. So that's certainly an ongoing debate. But in this conversation, I would also like the opportunity to take the opportunity to ask those people that are here for the first time what they hope to find within RChain Europe, be it in social media, be it in these calls. So whatever it is that you would like to share, or if you have any questions, that's a good moment now.
I would also like to give some more updates, Ela, if this is possible.
Oh yeah, of course, please.
Okay, so first of all, regarding the governance debate, I want to point to a very valuable article published by Vlad Zamfir, one of the board members of the RChain co-op in the US, who has lately published his Blockchain Governance 101 and Blockchain Governance 103. I will post this into the channel. This was coming up after the Ethnix Governance Conference. I also posted a link to the panel debates around distributed governance and how to develop governance for blockchain systems. I find them very, very valuable, and I think it's a good direction to look to, as Vlad is one of our, is part of the RChain and the Ethereum community, but truly one of the people who has a deep understanding for the field. And when we develop those systems and look at the solutions, I think it's super helpful to set that in the context of that ongoing debate of the Ethereum and RChain community. Furthermore, I would like to make an announcement for the open rolling sessions, which are always on Thursday. So we have a rolling starter session starting next week, Thursday, which is hosted by Rinke Hendrickson. And we have an advanced rolling session where there will be a discussed current smart contracts for the infrastructure. I will post both things into the chat as well. It's, I think, very valuable if you want to exchange thoughts and learnings from rolling. But they are both moderated. If you want to bring in content, it's super helpful if you get in touch up front, and we will ensure that that you have the opportunity to share your content there. If not, it's a moderated way to engage. It's just an hour to exchange most valuable inputs. I think that's it from the other announcement I wanted to make. Oh yeah, I forgot one, which is super important. We have the member meetings, membership gathering, or say voting upcoming on the 24th of October for the US co-op. There will be a voting for items of business for the memberships, which are currently also discussed in the US co-op Discord. If you have the chance to participate there, I think it's very valuable to read the items of business, especially because we have some upcoming which have a big gravity for the whole ecosystem. As you might or might not know, there is still, the debates ongoing for the funding of the EU co-op, and also for creating the whole incubator in Europe. And those decisions there will probably have an impact on that as well. Yeah, I think that's it from my side so far.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fantastic.
So basically, how will this voting in the US go on? I have no clue. And it would be good if we have a common interest here as the European co-op to talk a little bit, about the process and what we should vote or discuss this at least a little bit, right?
That's a good point, as we have also members from the European community which had posted items of business. Ian is in the call as well. I think he would be the most suitable to share a little bit of input how those votings will take place.
So the voting is being done by two third parties that are portfolio companies of Reflective Ventures. It's NetVote and Govern. They've set up a private Ethereum instance where the voting will take place. I'm going to encourage them to perhaps do a blog post where they can show off all of the intricacies of how they've set this up. It's I'd say that our governance in the co-op, it's still relatively primitive. We're evolving it. Most of the decision making goes up to the board. And in the case of the items of business, according to the bylaws, the official way that these items of business are presented is to have actual signatures of 1/10 of the entire membership to bring an item of business into the annual meeting. And currently, we don't really even have a good mechanism to do that. So on our Discord, we've created a channel giving members the ability to post items of business and to register some sentiment just through like an emoji voting, so that the board members can see, which items are attracting the most attention of the members. And then it's actually the board members in our bylaws that say that if we have 1/3 of the board members approve an item of business, then it gets balloted. So the board members met this past Monday and balloted several of these items of business. And I believe we're still looking at a couple because the absolute deadline, the cutoff for items of business is 2 weeks before the annual meeting, I believe.
So that's now, right?
Yeah.
So still have the chance to come up with something until midnight.
Okay.
Hey, Craig, welcome.
Hey, sorry I'm a little late. I was having all kinds of trouble. The Zoom room link and the calendar invite is wrong. Anyway, wasn't able to join. Good to be here. How is everyone?
Yeah, hi. Okay, Greg, we were just talking about the upcoming member votes and items of business that could still be delivered until today.
Uh-huh.
Just to... You want to add something to that?
Can you guys hear? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So there seems to be all kinds of connectivity issues this morning.
Well, you finally made it.
Yes, it's good to be here. So, I mean, I would encourage the European membership to also get engaged in the U.S. activities. I'm curious, is there an annual European member meeting?
Yeah, there will be, and there will be one coming up either by the end of this year or by the beginning of next year, because we definitely need a general assembly to vote our supervisory board and so forth. So there's a lot that needs to be decided on. But there will be, in general, there will be a member meeting every year, yes. So, Greg, you still here?
I'm still here.
Ah, okay, good.
That's good news. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to a voting system and issue an item of business system from RChain Europe for next year.
Yeah, that is certainly something we are currently trying to figure out how that might look like in the two projects we are working on, where we just reported at the very beginning of this call. The user story part and the other, the overview on governance projects and initiatives and what we can learn from that. So there are our first steps underway. We can hope to just go even deeper into that and to really come up with something. Sure.
And with the further development of the platform and more know-how and more infrastructure built, this will definitely something which will be asked by other DApps as well, right? That they have tools for voting or something like that natively on RChain. So that is definitely something which will be very interesting to look into and to build.
That's awesome.
So
one thing is apparently Christian was unaware of your setup here, so he set up his live stream AV and assumed that no one came to the call because no one came to his Zoom room.
Oh, Greg, I really have difficulties in following you. The connection is. Can you repeat that, please?
Just one moment.
I would also advise everyone who is currently not talking to mute their mics. That helps improving the sound quality.
So is the connection better now?
Yeah, now it's much better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I switched over to Wi-Fi from cellular, and that seems to have improved things. Okay. So Christian was under the assumption that he was going to be helping with the live streaming, and he set up his room, and so he.
Oh yeah.
So he's over there and assumed that no one showed up for the call. Anyway, so you guys should coordinate. What's that?
I couldn't reach him this morning because I sent him a message, but apparently it didn't get through.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we should coordinate on that a little bit and just we need to make sure. If you guys don't need Christian, that's fine. We understand it. Because he's got lots and lots of work. So just let us know. So I would love to update RChain Europe on a bunch of things that cannot be live streamed. So how can we coordinate about that? What would be the best way?
We can just arrange for a call.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So why don't we do that? I've been a little bit out of the loop on the expression of wish and other things because I've been very, very focused and busy on those things I'd like to talk to you about. But it requires it's a members only discussion.
Sure. Sure. Can you just send over a proposal when we can talk?
Sure, I can do that. Or if people want to, we could do it as early as tomorrow morning at say 6 a.m. Pacific time, if that's a time that's amenable for other people here.
At 6 a.m. Pacific time.
3 p.m. European time.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Lilia, can you put that in the calendar and
sure.
Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. That's very kind of you. Okay, yeah. So a lot of good things happening, but unfortunately, we're bound by NDAs currently, so we can't talk about them online.
Okay, Greg, I think once again we've lost you because I didn't get that last part of the message.
So sorry. Can you hear me now?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so strange. Anyway, I'm just looking forward to having that call. It's one of the things that I've been finding a lot is that when we deal with other market sectors that have this that don't have this commitment to radical transparency, it sort of bleeds over into our communications. And I've been thinking a lot about this, like in the context of GNU copyleft and other kinds of things. I would love to be able to craft, the equivalent of GNU copyleft for radical transparency, so that we could infect more and more businesses with the idea of radical transparency, rather than being infected more and more by NDAs, which are hemming in our free and open conversations.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go for it.
It would be wonderful, right? If we could infect the whole world with this idea of radical transparency. It would be a much different business environment, I tell you that.
Sometimes I have the feeling we need to ensure that we increase communication between the ocean, as it's kind of far away, and it's not easy sometimes to ensure that even with the current infrastructure we have and the amount of people involved, that we coordinate so strongly enough to get a clear understanding where we're heading to. I think there is a kind of uncertainty for various reasons right now. And I think it would be very helpful for us here in Europe, also for the development of the governance tools that are on, to ensure that we get a little bit more certainty on that. Also for running the validator pools, and also for very important potential investors which are interested in investing in a potential co-op in Europe, which is only possible if we obviously ensure that there is a way that we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there should be no barriers to investors to invest in RChain Europe, right? All of RChain is open source, so I mean, basically any project, any cooperative in the world could just pick up RChain and run nodes.
That's true. But one of the most important dynamics is the rock in every blockchain project, right, Craig?
Yeah.
And therefore, this is the intrinsic motivation for every rock holder. So if we are not able to ensure that those investors are getting invested in rock as well, they will not have that or share that intrinsic motivation, and there will be less cooperation over the ecosystem between those who hold the rock and those who don't hold it. Right. So this is what I was referring to.
I understand, but even those kinds of things, please be aware that like at the end of the day, in 2017, we just invented the rock, right? The rock was invented out of thin air, and these where there's a will, there's a way. is what I'm trying to say. We all have agency here. But I just that said, I do absolutely hear what you're saying, and we are we definitely want to increase communication. But this is I just want to keep insisting that that there is we are firmly committed to decentralization, and we're firmly committed to supporting each other's autonomy. So there shouldn't be blocks. There really shouldn't be blocks to investors in Europe. But for certain, if there are any questions with the potential investors in Europe, absolutely, we should have those conversations.
Yeah, and maybe even before that, just to make sure that we all have the same understanding of where we are heading towards. That is for me the most important thing. It's only then that we are all together strong enough and convincing to attract that money that we are seeking for, right? And what I always found really useful is to really dedicate time to have these discussions. That's what really makes a difference. So looking forward to that call tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
We do have 5 minutes left, and I just want to make sure that if there is anything pressing or any urgent questions that should be answered, that we give people the chance to come up with that.
I got one thing that I just wanted to share. I did type it into the chat. So, and I promised the guys that I'm working with on Expression of Wish that I'd share it with them, which I did. So there's a tiny little bit that my wife pointed me to on a program called More or Less on BBC Radio 4. And it's from a TV program, a British comedy, quite famous, called Yes Minister. And it's about 5:19 in for about a minute. And this is why I mean, it will make you laugh. I hope you will laugh anyway. But it probably is what goes on in government, really. But this is how you rig a debate. And so when we talk about your governance and debating online and things like that, the importance of setting up and how you lead into the debate is demonstrated by this 1 minute segment in the best way I could possibly find. So I just hope that you all enjoy that and you have a laugh on me.
Okay. Thanks for that, Steve. Is there anything else? Are there any questions, announcements, stuff we forgot to talk about? No? Okay. Then if there are no further contributions, I just want to thank everyone for being here and taking the time. So from now on, all our community calls will happen in this Zoom room. And we are all set up for, I think I sent you calendar invites until next year at around the same time. So we should be covered until then. And yeah, so I just look forward to talking to you next Wednesday. And just thank everyone for their time. See you again then.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks, Ela. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Peter, are you still on the call?
Yeah.
Do you have a minute to chat just after this?
Yep.
Awesome. You want to meet in my Zoom room?
Sure.
Okay, see you there.